So, here it is, my Morrowind video. And I'm scared. Look, much like Daggerfall, I basically had zero experience with Morrowind. I popped it into my dad's original Xbox when I was like 5, died instantly, and never touched it again. But for some reason, I've become hell-bent on playing through every Elder Scrolls game as an adult, just to see how they actually were. Safe to say this one was unique. And hey, if you're into deep dives, chaos, and questionable decision-making across classic RPGs, consider hitting that subscribe button. I've got more Elder Scrolls coming, and trust me, it only gets weirder from here. So I boot up the game, cue a couple crashes, classic, then I'm dropped into the slow but deep world of Morrowind. After filing taxes, aka character creation, twice, by the way, I finally make it into the game. Like most Elder Scrolls titles, you'll start somewhere you need to escape, you gotta talk to someone to move forward. But here's where I had my first uh-oh moment. There are no quest markers, just vague directions given by NPC dialogue, and don't worry, I'll save my complaints for later. Now, just a quick disclaimer, I've only sunk about 50 or so hours into Morrowind, and I know I'm missing a lot, and this game has a lot, so please don't yell at me, these are just my first impressions. So first I want to talk about the beginning of the game, specifically the combat and magic. Right off the bat, after filling out my skill tree and choosing my character class, which I'll admit is way more refined than Daggerfall, only a little bit of tax filing involved this time, I talked to the person I needed to talk to in order to move the story forward. That's kind of how this game goes, but I'll get into that later. Then I ran into my first combat encounter, which was lackluster to say the least. The combat in this game is meh at best. The dice roll mechanic makes fighting feel super frustrating early on, and later on, almost a little too easy. It's weird. I've seen some defenses of this saying it makes combat feel more engaging, it forces you to care about your skills, and like, I get the idea, but I honestly think it's a miss. It just doesn't feel good in practice. Also, the fact that everything you do, including combat, is affected by your stamina, which is kind of annoying. Sure, it makes sense that I can't fight well if I'm out of breath, but why can't I talk, shop, or repair gear properly if I'm winded? What am I doing, wheezing so hard the shopkeeper can't understand me? There are moments when combat almost feels fun, and then it gets ruined by some random miss because, surprise, I'm tired. It's just one of those things that feels like it could have been better. That's all I'm saying. As for magic, honestly, it feels great. I'd heard a lot about how Oblivion and Skyrim kind of dumbed down the magic, potion making, and spellcrafting, basically the whole system, and now I get it. Morrowind gives you so many spells, potions, and crafting options that magic actually feels limitless, like this endlessly customizable playground of arcane chaos. Spellmaking in particular is amazing. You can buy spells and then tweak or combine them to your liking. Whether you want something simple and cheap to cast or the most overpowered monstrosity you've ever seen, it's genuinely one of the most fun systems I've used. And enchanted items, they're not just little bonus effects, they're huge. You can customize enchantments however you want. Want to fly? Slap on a ring. Want to buff your health, resist fire, or make enemies explode into confetti? You can probably enchant something for it. The system is designed so that enchanted items cast just like spells, and honestly, it's awesome. It's one of the few parts of the game where you feel completely in control, and the depth here is seriously underrated. But unfortunately, this brings me to my next section, the economic system, which sadly ties directly into Enchanting. Now, like I mentioned before, Enchanting is a huge part of the game, but it's also an ungodly expensive part of the game. So naturally you'd think, alright, time to make a ton of money. Seems simple enough. Yeah, no. The economy in Morrowind is completely busted. Every store owner or barter NPC has a hard cap on how much gold they have, and that cap is tiny. On top of that, how much they'll actually offer you depends on your social skill. So even if you're selling a legendary artifact, there'll be like 200 gold? Now there is one guy, well, one scamp, in Caldera with 5,000 gold. That's it. That's your best option. The problem? Some items are worth 10k, 20k, or more, so how do you sell them? Here's the janky solution. You sell the item to the scamp, you buy back the items from him, up to his 5k cap to get your money's worth, then sell more, then rest for 24 hours for his money to reset, and repeat. Yeah. That's how you're supposed to handle high-value trading. It's incredibly tedious, and in a game where enchanting is so important and so overpriced, the fact that you can't actually earn money at a reasonable rate just feels kind of broken. The highest I've been paid for a quest is like maybe 4k. Meanwhile, the cost to enchant something could be 20k to 3 million. So you're stuck doing this weird resale loop, spamming the rest button, all so you can afford to make your boots fly for 3 seconds. It's kind of just like, why? Why have these absurdly priced items if no one has the gold to buy them? Why make enchanting so central to the experience, but then gate it behind a broken barter economy? It just doesn't make much sense. Maybe it's just the early 2000s game design, but it feels disjointed. I get that they wanted bartering to be a mechanic you engage with to optimize your deals, but it ends up making money management feel like a glitchy side quest. Like, wow, I just looted an item worth 20k, cut to me stuck selling iron helmets to a demon for 20 straight minutes. It just kind of sucks. But now I want to talk about the quest. The main story centers around you fulfilling a prophecy as the Nerevarine, the chosen one meant to unite the world. The twist? No one really believes you, so the main quest is basically just proving to everyone that you are the Nerevarine. over and over again. And unfortunately, that's kind of the whole storyline. Now, I haven't finished the main quest. I've gotten pretty far, and I dipped a bit into Tribunal before getting derailed by some janky NPC pathing. More on that later. So far, the main quest has mostly involved running back and forth, talking to people, doing their errands, and convincing them I'm the chosen one. It's a lot of walking, it's a lot of talking, it's a lot of visiting all camps, proving random things to skeptical randos. It's honestly just kind of boring. There was one cool part, fulfilling the trials of the Nerevarine, where you see the ghosts of those who failed before you. That moment was actually pretty sick. It was a great atmosphere, solid lore, but that's been the highlight so far. I just wish there were more moments like that bigger, cooler story that, I don't know, just breaks up the monotony. Now, the side quests, weirdly enough, I found those more exciting. The Thieves Guild quests, for example, are super fun, and Solstheim, part of the Blood Moon DLC, is a blast. You get to help build a town, explore a snowy island full of Nords and diseased wolves. It's just way more engaging. Speaking of which, the lore in this game is pretty incredible. Tons of books, side stories, random NPC backgrounds, it's all deeply intricate. Like the other Elder Scrolls games, it makes you feel like you're part of this massive, living world that's been turning long before you got there. There's no shortage of reading or dialogue to dig into, and the dialogue system itself is surprisingly great. You can click on highlighted keywords to expand them and get more info. It just feels really intuitive. But now let's talk about something I don't love. The journal. In theory, it's cool. You can go back and see what was said, track your quests, all that good stuff. But in practice, it's kind of janky. Say you get directions from someone for a part of a quest, then go off and do something else. When you come back to it, the journal might not show that part of the dialogue. It just disappears. Why? No clue. It's infuriating. And don't even get me started on map markers. Oh wait, there aren't any. Now, I've heard every excuse for this. Oh, it's more immersive. Oh, it's realistic. Sometimes they do mark it. Okay, but why only sometimes? Every NPC in the game seems to know exactly where to go. Why can't they just mark it? Or at least mark a general area? Someone in my chat suggested that, and honestly, that would have been perfect. Instead, we get vague and sometimes completely misleading go southwest, south, northwest directions, and sure, maybe I'm just directionally challenged, but without my chat, I would have been lost like 90% of the time. And look, if we're talking about realism, you've already got levitation pants, boots of blinding speed. I mean, we're way past realism. You can't defend the lack of map markers on immersion grounds while also giving me combat that's literally based off a dice roll. It just feels inconsistent. Look, I'm not saying mark everything like Skyrim does, but give us something. Because right now, it's either you get lucky and it's marked, or you're kind of screwed. It's not a deal breaker, but it is annoying. Now on to something I always cover in these videos, the feel of the game. And Morrowind feels big, expansive, immersive, the kind of world that pulls you in and makes you want to get lost in it. The music, top tier, the areas, full of life, whether it's cliffstriders, looters, or just some farmer who lost a ring in a pond, the world feels alive in a way that's rare. The weather adds a lot too, the ash storms, the rain, the fog, it really gives you a good atmosphere. And the NPCs, despite their quirks, contribute to that immersion. You don't feel like you're playing a game, you feel like you're in it. But there's one part of the map that I just can't stand, the Ashlands. It's massive, volcanic, it's burnt out, and it takes up a huge chunk of the world, and to be honest, I'm not a fan of it. It's bland, it's tiresome, it's full of cliffstriders, it's just miles of ashy rock and gray skies. It kind of just turns the game into a mountain-filled walking simulator. That said, the rest of the map totally makes up for it. The small towns, the little islands, the tucked-away coastal routes, they're charming and vibrant. They totally outweigh the dull slog that is the Ashlands. Now, what's really wild is that Morrowind somehow feels bigger than Skyrim, even though it's technically smaller. Someone in my chat pointed out that it might be because of the limited view distance. Since you can't see that far ahead of you, the world feels more mysterious, more endless. And you know what? I think they're right. Either way, Bethesda nailed the sense of scale you feel. The caves, tombs, and dungeons are super fun. Little confusing at times, sure, but you still want to explore every one you stumble across. And it helps that there are massive Dwemer ruins and creepy Daedra shrines scattered all over the place to keep things interesting. And if you're lucky, you might find a bizarre book, a cursed artifact, or some absurdly overvalued glass sword just chilling on a skeleton in the corner. It's a lot of fun, and overall, they succeeded in making the world feel alive, mysterious, and worth getting lost in. Now look, I won't go on too long here, but I do want to talk about the jank. Yes, the game is 23 years old. I'm not going to roast it for being a bit rough around the edges, but some things are just kind of insane. For example, during the Tribunal questline, I had to lead an NPC down to a shrine I had just cleared, and sounds simple, right? No, he got stuck on a rock ramp, and no matter what I did, he just would not go up. Chat told me I'd either have to go into the console, mess with commands, enchant a levitation touch spell thing to float him over, or just play the openmw version of the game that fixes NPC pathing. That kind of jank is brutal, not just funny or quirky, but actually game breaking. I literally couldn't continue the quest. Outside of that, it's been mostly small stuff like glitchy enemies, attribute debuffs I can't seem to fix, nothing too crazy. But man, that NPC pathing issue is really frustrating. Still, I try to take it all with a grain of salt, fault. The game is old, and I don't want to even imagine the hardware limitations they were working with, and honestly, for what it is, Morrowind actually runs pretty well. Now for my final verdict on Morrowind. I'd give it a solid 8.9 out of 10. This game is massive, it's deep, it's immersive, and honestly, I've been having an amazing time with it. I'm still playing and streaming it almost daily, and I don't just mean that casually. I look forward to hopping back into Morrowind every time I boot up my PC. It's one of those rare games that just sticks with you. The atmosphere, the world building, the freedom, it all holds up incredibly well, even after more than 2 decades. And to be real with you, I think Morrowind is right up there with Skyrim. Yep, I said it. I genuinely think it's better than Oblivion. It might not have the same polish or modern conveniences, but it makes up for that with raw ambition, depth, and this weird, janky charm that I've completely fallen in love with. Plus, with years of modding and the support of platforms like openmw, this game still feels alive. Like, alive. It's not just a nostalgic relic. It's a game that can still offer fresh, meaningful experiences in 2025 and beyond. So yeah, it's a damn good game. Should I play Arena next? Let me know down below. I'm debating if I want to go all the way back and see how this madness started. Thanks for watching, and hey, if you like these kinds of videos, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and it lets me keep doing more of these deep dives into chaotic RPG classics like this.